of the most uncomfortable situations we can find ourselves in is when we are close to somebody who has maybe bad body odor or bad breath, and we're like up close to them and we're trying to navigate through the situation. You're just like trying to keep it together, but on the inside you're going, oh my gosh, I can't hardly stand this experience right now because of what I'm smelling, the stench. And so the Bible says, like Paul says, we are the aroma to God. We are the aroma of Christ to God. To those who are saved, we're the fragrance of life. And to those who are perishing, we're the fragrance of death. So we think about that contextually, like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, how am I supposed to see myself as an aroma? Well, I think it's really important for us to kind of visualize that. Every day that we live our lives, like if you don't brush your teeth and you do that a few days in a row, like you're putting off an aroma. And I think that there's some truth in what Paul's trying to communicate here to us, is that we can be a fragrant aroma of life, or we can be a fragrant aroma of death. And I think it's all tied to obedience. Like when I'm walking with Christ and I'm listening to what he's asking me to do and I'm stepping into obedience, then I'm experiencing something new in my life. Isaiah the prophet, and he talks about in the 43rd chapter of Isaiah, he says of God, behold, I'm doing a new thing. And I'll make a way in the desert. I'll make streams in the desert. And what we need to understand is that I think what God is calling us to is a newness in obedience. Like every time we get to a place where we've obeyed God in an area of our lives. For somebody who's just starting their journey, it may be baptism. Well, they're obedient in that. And so there's a fragrance of life that comes out of them. Well, then God's going to ask us to do something else. Like that's what surrender is all about, is consistently stepping into the obedience that God is calling us to. And when we do that, like there's that fragrant aroma of life. However, if there's disobedience in our lives, then it can be that we're putting off an aroma of death. And the challenging thing is when you are walking consistently in obedience and you start to develop that rhythm in your life, some people, like it can be convicting for them, and they can feel somewhat like judged by your life. But it's important that you're not doing the judging. Like the only thing that should be happening in your life is like stepping into obedience and letting that fragrant aroma of life come out of you. And when they get around you, if they're not walking in that obedience, they may feel some death, but it should never be that we're trying to make them experience death by things that we say or things that we do. All we're called to do is listen to the Lord, step into the obedience, and make sure that that fragrant aroma we're putting off is a new thing and not old and musty. Like look for where God is asking you to walk today, and make sure you're stepping into obedience. If you don't, your life may stink.